Mayor Suarez, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
No, please, for this Miami report, it's kind of a big deal. And listen, we've been speaking a lot lately. You've told me you're going to accompany me on all these Miami reports going forward.
I am.
You have a little better information than I have about what's going on in South Florida.
It's public information, but it's almost like inside information.
Yes. Well, listen, I spent a lot of time researching what's going on in Miami. Whenever I speak to you, I feel like I just moved here.
Craig, nobody does it better than you.
Well, no, I appreciate that very much. Thank you. But I'll be happy to be number two next to you. You know, I started publishing the Miami Report 13 years ago. It was right after the crisis of '08. And back then I used to publish it annually. And all we really did was measure inventory, where prices are going, where the buyers are coming from, really basic stuff. But it was very confusing because the media always got it wrong when it came to our little town called Miami.
That's right.
Always. The last couple of years I've had to publish this quarterly because Miami's changing every quarter. It doesn't change every year
It's
anymore.
phenomenal.
It's the growth is dynamic. For years and years and years, I have enjoyed selling real estate here to second home buyers from North America and South America since 2017. Americans that were moving here because of the tax law change that President Trump passed.
Sure.
You know, they want to move to a no income state tax. It was either Texas or Florida.
Absolutely.
And since Texas doesn't have a lot of oceans, and Texas doesn't have this ridiculous weather, here we are in Coconut Grove today.
Incredible.
In the middle of October. We're so lucky to live here. That's another feeder market that came here. We've always had Latin America, and Latin America continues to come. However, we have a fourth feeder market that we've never seen. Never seen. And I've done a lot of research on this. I don't know if any city in the United States is seeing the kind of growth that we're getting now from US companies, as well as what's about to come in the next 5 to 10 years. I almost have this idea that you had a vision to transform Miami into this model US city for the 21st century. Because you've somehow convinced over 122 major companies, most of which are Fortune 500 companies, to relocate their offices, their businesses here to South Florida, Miami, within the last 2 years. So far, only about 15 to 20% of those companies have arrived. The rest are planning. And I know just by common sense, there are more coming. Sir, you've transformed the city. This is no longer your mom's and dad's Miami. This is an international business center. This has always been the gateway to Latin America, but the Americans that are moving here have changed this again. Sir, I have spoken to so many people at ISG and related ISG and realtors all over South Florida, not to mention the millions of property owners, millions. I haven't talked to all of them, but I talked to a lot of them by email, by text. They would like me to ask you this question. In 2020, when we were all home, because we had to be home, you were on planes. You were flying all over the United States, from New York. You went to Illinois, where Chicago is. You went to California, back, crisscrossed the country. And you somehow convinced over 122 major corporations, starting with Ken Griffin, for example, at Citadel. You've got Carl Icahn that moved here. We've got Goldman Sachs opening an office here. Major corporations that are relocating here. And they're going to change South Florida forever. Sir, what was your sales pitch? What did you say to these companies? Because clearly it worked.
It's proprietary. No, I'm just kidding.
God, I hope not.
No, it's not. Look, I am blessed. I am the first mayor of Miami in the 125-year history of the city that was born in the city. What does that mean? That means that there's no separation between the person that I am and the city that I love and that I represent and that I serve. And you're right, there was a vision, and that vision was built on the shoulders of other visionaries. So when you talk about people like Maurice Ferre, who began the vision that Miami could be the gateway to the Americas. And then people like my father, who brought all these sports franchises to Miami when he was mayor. And then today they're modern day visionaries like Manny Medina, who a few years ago envisioned that Miami, to be successful, had to have a technology ecosystem. All of that influenced my upbringing.
Okay.
All that influenced my vision for the city. And as a father now of an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, I realized that for our city to succeed, for any city to succeed in the world, they needed to be at the intersection of this metamorphosis from a highly industrial economy to an ever-increasing digital economy. So that was my aha moment. And I realized, as you said, I started building this ecosystem with the help of so many people in this community. And then we had a catalytic moment, right? The catalytic moment was, you talk about some of these macro factors like the SALT deduction going away, right? So what did that mean?
Right.
That means that in a city like Miami, if you're in the highest tax bracket, you're only paying 1/3 of your income in taxes. If you're in New York, you're paying 54% of your income and taxes. That means that for every dollar that you earn, you're only taking in 46 cents. Think about that.
My son lives in New York City. I know you're spot on.
So it's like the government is your silent majority partner, right? But you don't get a say in that partnership. So I think there's a huge opportunity there. And then the second piece that happened that was a major differentiator, macro differentiator, was you had cities like New York and San Francisco kicking out their largest company and their largest innovator. In New York, kicking out Amazon after winning the HQ2 prize, and San Francisco kicking out Elon Musk by saying F Elon Musk, and him saying message received and leaving. What people don't understand about those situations is it's not just that you're kicking out a company, which, by the way, Amazon was going to provide 50,000 high-paying jobs for New York. It's not just that you're kicking out a billionaire. Elon Musk is the richest person in the world.
Right.
It's the signaling effect to the rest of the market when you're saying, we don't want you here. So by contrast, I wake up on December 4th of 2020, the same year you're talking about, and I see a tweet on my Twitter thread that says, hey, what if we move Silicon Valley to Miami? And I responded very innocently, never thinking that it was going to be like a viral moment or anything like that. How can I help? And that created a firestorm of investment because it was an attitude differentiator. Our city, which is a fundamentally pro-American city, a pro-police city, which means pro-safety, and pro-capitalism, pro-American dream, free market, is what people want because they want to be in a place where if they work hard, government's not going to take a penny of their dollars more than necessary. It's going to give them the ability to risk their capital, to invest right in real estate and other high-performing assets, and they're going to be able to retire eventually in the future. So that is the American dream, and I think no city in the world really has encapsulated that dream better and has changed its economics in a way that captures that. We're number one in the nation in tech job growth. Okay, we're number one in wage growth. We have a 1.4% unemployment, and we've moved.
Is that low?
1.4%.
Oh my gosh!
According to Bloomberg. Okay,
I'm sure it's true. Because by the way, finding good people is impossible.
Impossible.
Right.
And we've moved $2.5 trillion of assets under managed companies to Miami in the last 30 months. $2.5 trillion.
That's a number I was trying to find. Thank you for giving me. That is an enormous number.
Enormous amount of people.
And also, as you and I touched on a few weeks ago. When cities are starting to feel as vibrant and as vital as Miami now is, especially with all these new wonderful young people coming here, what's happening with crime in Miami?
Well, what we've done, again, is a counter-narrative to what other American cities have done. While other cities get into this crazy defund police movement, we did the exact opposite. We lowered taxes to the lowest level in recorded history. In my last budget, I lowered taxes to the lowest level. So while other cities are raising taxes in this sort of tax death spiral, we actually lowered taxes. What was interesting is our revenue went through the roof because of our growth, because of the amount of construction, because of the amount of investment.
Property taxes grow.
Exactly. So we grew 12%, right? Which is the second most in recorded history, even though we had the lowest tax rate in recorded history. So what happened? We were able to pay our officers better, and we're able to provide more officers. We have the most police officers we've ever had in our history. And shocking correlation, we're on the precipice right now, if we have a great quarter4, of having the lowest homicide rate per capita in our history.
Shocking stat.
Shocking correlation. It's a shocking statistic because it's a counter narrative to what's happening in other urban American cities across the country.
Well, yes. I mean, I know you've gotten kind of close with Mr. Griffin of Citadel.
Yes.
His decision to move his world headquarters here was no small thing.
No,
but Chicago hasn't been a very friendly city to a lot of people, unfortunately. That's sad for Chicago because it's a great city.
It is.
But you were able to convince them that here your employees won't have to go to work looking over their shoulder.
Yes.
This is Miami. We also touched a little bit on real estate taxes.
Yeah.
You were able to throw the residents of the citizens of Miami a little bone recently.
That's right.
You were able to reduce taxes.
We did, and I think, again, it's my spike the ball moment, right? Like, we're winning, and I'm spiking the ball because I want the narrative to be, hey, we care about you. And I think a lot of cities they're not projecting that message. And I think what we're projecting is, we care about you. We want to have the lowest taxes ever. And guess what? Next year, if I can reduce taxes again, I'll reduce taxes even lower. Government is not created to subsist and to exist. Government provides a service. And once it's done, it shouldn't require a penny more of your money. It can't solve every problem. We just did a phenomenal thing, recently, which is we started the Venture Miami Scholarship Fund, where every single kid in Miami that's eligible for a Pell Grant will go to college to get a STEM degree for free at FIU, University of Miami, Florida Memorial, and Miami-Dade College. So we're empowering people to get the kind of educations that will match the jobs that we're bringing, because we're number one in the nation in tech job growth. Can you imagine Miami number one in the nation in tech job growth?
Actually, I can. But sometimes when I say that, whether I'm in South America,
it gets you excited. I can tell.
I do. No,
Look
I
how
do.
excited you get.
No, this is the most exciting city in the United States right now.
It is. It is great.
You know, you travel more than I do. But whenever I travel outside Miami, it's usually for business. Yeah. My son and daughter both live in New York, so when I go visit them, that's social. But wherever I am, whether it's New York or South America, when someone asks me, where do you live? It's like I give them a 3 to 4 second pause, 1,200, and I say, I live in Miami. And I almost say it just like that, nice and slow. Their eyes light up, they've got this smile, and I can't tell if they're happy for me or jealous.
Right, well, it's probably a combination. And I can tell you the Miami Miracle, what I call the Miami Miracle, this transformation story, has resonated in the Middle East, South America, everywhere. And when you talk about what was this vision for Miami? How do we change this Miami? I realized that that the world is changing rapidly, and I came up with this concept called capital of capital. And the concept means that as jobs become more decentralized because you have remote work, there's still going to be a central point, a central hub where capital will aggregate and where capital decision deployments will be made. And I think increasingly it's going to be Miami. Why? Not just because of our tax structure, not just because we want it and we invite it in and other cities are pushing it out, but we're also geographically right in the center of 5 mega markets. New York, Silicon Valley, South America, the Middle East, and Europe. And none of those markets are any closer to the other than we are to all of them. And that gives us a great geo position, which allows us to sort of graduate from this great brand of being the, you know, sort of the capital of Latin America. But I think as I project into the future, my vision is that Miami will be one of a handful, whether it's a dozen or half a dozen, truly global cities. And those are cities that are going to be at some level recession-proof.
Well, speaking of recession-proof, there's a lot of chatter out in the world, especially here in South Florida particularly, because that's where I live and do business, that mortgage rates went up this year and real estate sales are slowing down. And in fact, I think prices may go down. Okay. We talked about these feeder markets. We have Latin America. We've always had Latin America. We have now this new American influx of individuals that are moving here because of what happened with Tax Reform 17.
Right.
Florida and Texas being the two big winners. We have we now have these 122 companies coming here, and most of which have not arrived yet. They're Americans, and they want bigger houses. They want bigger condos. It's 10 years ago, I could sell 1-bedroom condos all day long in Miami, particularly when I was in South America. Today, it's kind of tilted more towards the 2s and 3s because people are moving here permanently. So despite what's happened with mortgage rates this year, and despite all the talk about a recession, a recession with ridiculously unemployment rate, the average price of the average condo, the average price of the average house in South Florida this year is up about 15% more than it was last year being the most significant year we've ever seen in real estate appreciation in the United States, not just South Florida.
Right.
Secondly, we have noticed that realtors, they have this thing called days on the market.
Right.
So if I list your house, does it take 90 days, 120 days before I get a contract? Last year it was 90 days. People thought it was like 2 weeks. No, it was really 90 days. Year before that, 90. Year before that, 90. This year it fell to 60. So what we've seen, despite all the chatter about high interest rates in a recession, I'd love your opinion on this because we've seen our prices are rising, not as fast as last year, thankfully, because frankly, a 15% increase in your house, not so bad. You'll take that all day long.
Sure.
A 50% increase or a 100% increase from 2020 to 21, that sounds great, but eventually that starts to slow things down as well. But despite the recession talks and mortgage rates, we're still seeing tremendous appreciation and lots of activity in the real estate market, again, despite all this conversation about recession. So do you really see South Florida, as I do, almost recession-proof?
Yeah, I do, and I'll tell you why. And I'll give you some numbers because I know you're a numbers guy and you like to hear sort of the
I don't know how I became one, but I did.
Tell a great story. We have a tremendous amount of demand. When we looked at rental price increases, right? Miami was at or near the top, right, in terms of what we're seeing. Now, we have historic inflation, right? So that's driving prices up as well.
Yes.
But you would see in urban America 25, maybe 35% increases. In Miami, it was more like 45, 50% increases. So what was happening? Everybody wanted to be here. So what's the cure for hyper demand? Supply. right? And so,
Amen.
and so, what does that mean for Miami? Well, first you got to look at what supply is available, right? So the delta between what's built and what can be built in our zoning code, that's a form-based code, meaning that there's like invisible boxes over buildings that tell you what you can build there. That delta is 10 to 1. So we can actually get 10 times larger than what we are without changing our zoning code. We don't have to ask for permission from the government. You don't have to get anything special. That's just baked into the system.
Is that mostly downtown Miami?
That's mostly in downtown Miami, but that's in areas where there's high levels of density, right? So that's a 10 to 1 multiple. We've done the analysis already. What does our pipeline look like right now? You like to talk about numbers. So our pipeline right now, the last time that I was told, we have 47,000 residential units in the construction pipeline. 47,000. What does that mean? Well, that's about a 25% increase in our entire housing stock.
Yes, that's big.
Right? So that's a 2 to 3 year build out.
Yes.
There's no signs that that's slowing in any way. And by the way, if prices cool a little bit, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad thing for realtors because they get a percentage of the total rental amount.
Sure.
It's still going to get a big percentage. And a lot of times when people say, well, prices are going down, that's a little bit of a misnomer, right? Because a lot of it is unrealized gain, right? Like
very true. It might be off a little bit from last year's all-time high,
right?
And significantly higher than 19.
But a lot of it's an unrealized gain. Like for example, I bought my house I think in 2017. If I were to sell it today, maybe it wouldn't be worth the same amount as the top amount, but maybe it's a little less, but it is gonna be a significant increase from when I bought it just 5 years ago, right?
Yes,
so it's a little bit of an unrealized gain dip, which by the way is also not that bad because-
You explained it better than I do, but I try to explain that every day to people.
Okay. So, and by the way, realtors still make a lot of money on commissions,
Yes, they
and
do.
obviously the city benefits because every time there's a reset, this is what people don't understand, every time there's a reset, we don't make a lot of money in our annual taxes because A, we lower taxes, and B, there's something called Save Our Homes, which prevents you from increasing the value of the home by more than 3%. So even if the real value of the home is 15%, we're capped at a 3% growth by our property appraiser and by constitutionally, which is a good thing because it depresses the taxes for people over time. But what happens is when somebody buys, it resets at the new price.
Sure, right.
So even if prices are off from the high, right? These unrealized gains are off by 10 or 20%. It doesn't negatively affect the city because you're still realizing gains every time there's a transaction of 50, 60, 70%, right? So it keeps our tax base healthy, which allows me to keep reducing taxes and keep providing premium services, which is what we want to do for all our citizens.
Without a doubt. And listen, what you just said about the 10 to 1 ratio, if I can say it differently, that means 90% of what could be developed right now is air.
And by the way, yes,
without any special approval.
That's exactly right. And by the way, that's not even the second part, which is that doesn't touch commercial. So we've got multiple million square feet of commercial also in the development pipeline. So you've got some magnificent buildings that are going up. You know what I mean? On Brickell, they just approved a couple of buildings on Brickell. One across from the Icon, that's from Related Miami.
Right.
One across the street from that, from Related
New York.
So you've got these just iconic buildings that are going all over Wynwood, all over the design district, all over Edgewater and Midtown. So there's going to be lots of inventory to sell, and we need that. So it's great.
We are going to need it. I had a meeting yesterday with a bunch of real estate agents from Mexico City, and I asked them. I was talking about the population growth of Florida because we're the second fastest growing state in the U.S., right behind Texas.
Sure.
Although I'll tell you something, I've been following the trend lines that Athena Rosano's been providing me, and it's quite possible, not next year, but 2 or 3 years, we might take Texas. We might become, because of you, the #1 fastest growing state in the U.S.
I believe it.
If 90% of the FAR is still available to me, let me tell you how important it is. So these folks from Mexico City are in yesterday. And I said, does anybody know the population of Mexico City? And someone said 22 million. That's pretty close.
Yeah.
Anybody know the population of Sao Paulo? It's about 20 to 21. Very good. How about New York City? 10. Very good.
How about Miami?
You got it. Oh, God. I wish you were with me.
500,600,000.
I heard, well, that's the city of Miami.
Correct.
I said, I'm not going to ask about the city. I'm going to ask for all of Miami.
2.8.
Who wants to, exactly. Who wants to take a guess? Somebody said 10 million.
Right.
Someone said 7.
So that capacity differential.
I set you up for that.
Yeah, total setup.
It's under 3 million.
Yeah.
It's 2.7 million people.
Yeah.
What?
They can't
I
believe
said,
it.
so imagine.
It's
I don't know how to say
it's
this.
It's not a mega city like these other mega cities that you see around the country.
Yeah, are we the biggest small city or the smallest big city?
I don't know. We're the best small big city. I don't know.
We are.
We're the best city, period.
And the available FAR in downtown, we need it.
Yeah.
'Cause
So we
people
can
keep
go from
coming.
185,000 dwelling units. We're going to go up 47,000 more. So we'll be at, approximately 225,000, approximately, right, give or take. And then from that, we can go up to 1,500,000 dwelling units. So we got 10x. I mean, it's huge.
We've got room to receive all of these people now from literally all over the world.
And by the way, that's why
that are
we're
coming
bullish
here.
on Miami versus other cities like New York and San Francisco. They have structural problems, right, with their tax rate, crime, homelessness, et cetera.
Huge.
And we are also putting out a plan to be the first major urban city to have zero homeless. And we're working on that. We're dedicating a significant amount of funds for that. That's important because it's a quality of life issue.
Without a doubt, without a
right?
doubt.
And so, but in addition to that, New York is built out. San Francisco is artificially constrained. So when you look at competition, which is also how you gauge where's demand going to be, right? How our price is going to be stable over time. Well, you got to look at your competitors, right? What are your competitors doing? Are they evolving? Are they adapting? Are they doing something new? And the answer is no.
No, right. Listen, I know you're busy. I so appreciate you being here today.
This is fun for me.
Well,
You make it fun.
Well, you sell Miami passionately, and I have tremendous respect for people that
you do it well too.
That get to test their passion, and you do it every single day.
I love it.
We're a part of each other now, and
Yes.
I've told everybody at ISG and related ISG that we can count on Mayor Suarez to be with me at the end of every quarter to talk about what happened. Because Mayor, I promise you, because of you, this city is changing every 3 months in a rather meaningful way.
Well, I'll just make three. We can finish with these three things this quarter that have happened, right?
Please.
The first is obviously we know Citadel, right?
Oh.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But FTX also moved their headquarters from Chicago, their domestic headquarters, to Miami, and then Millennium took 100,000 feet in the Sabadell Bank building in. Brickell. So they're bringing another 1,000, 1,500 employees. So those are three things. And then of course, Financial Times named us #1 in the nation for foreign investment, foreign direct investment. So those are three major things that happened just in the last few weeks.
Again, this is not your mom's and dad's Miami, sir.
No, sir.
No, you've changed it. And on
We've done it
behalf,
together.
there's over 60,000 realtors in South Florida
We've done it
and
together.
millions of property owners that I'm speaking for every one of them right now. But thanking you very much.
You're welcome.
You sell what
been
we
fun.
sell. You sell it at a higher level than we do, and we've benefited from all of your hard work.
I do it with all my heart.
I believe me. I know, guys. Believe me. He's an unusual mayor. I know we only have you for what, 3 more years,
We'll see.
and then we'll see what happens with Mayor Suarez. But your future is extremely bright, and I know you'll always have a lot of love for Miami,
I can't
regardless
separate
of where
myself from it.
the Republican Party takes you.
We'll see.
Yep.
Thank you, Craig.
Mayor Suarez, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.